Hey guys, welcome back to Bookmas 2019. This is going to be day 19, and today I'm going to do a review of a book that I finished earlier today. So, if you have watched my previous video where I ranked all the Percy Jackson books, you will know that I had not actually read Titan's Curse before, despite the fact that it's the middle book of the original pentology, but whatever. So just to give a bit of context on why that was, I was aware of a few major spoilers that happened in it that I was very worried about, and I basically chickened out and decided I would jump ahead and go back to it at a later date. Oh, and just so you know, this is going to be spoiler free, at least at first. I probably will do some spoilers at the end, but I'll warn you before I do that switch. So I've actually read all the other books in the Percy Jackson series, plus the Heroes of Olympus series and what's out of the Trials of Apollo series right now. But I hadn't read Titan's Curse. So yeah, but I have a book club with my sister Megan Hannett and my cousin Naomi from Naomi's Bookshelf. Their channels will both be linked below. And right now we are reading through the Percy Jackson series. And if you're wondering why I don't have the actual book Titan's Curse here, it's because it's being loaned out right now, so yeah. So reading this book with Megan and Naomi was really interesting because while I had not read the book, I was aware of several of the major plot points just by virtue of having read all the sequels. But Megan and Naomi, they didn't know what was going to happen in this book. So I had to bite my tongue the entire way through because we actually would read the book together via Skype. So I'd be sitting there trying desperately not to say anything despite the fact that I knew what was going to happen with certain characters. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew it was going to happen. So that was a bit difficult to keep my mouth shut, especially since the thing I most wanted to talk about happened in the final chapter. Don't worry, no further. I won't say anything further other than that. But we finished it, and it was so fun. It was really cool seeing Megan and Naomi's reactions to things and their different takes on things, because they, of course, notice things that I don't. Another thing I was noticing when reading this is there's a lot of different parallels and elements to the story of Hercules. We see different elements of the labors of Hercules popping up. There's lots of references, that kind of thing, so that's really fun, especially since the previous book there was a lot of references to the Odyssey. While it's definitely not a ripoff and it's not a remake, it does pay a lot of homage to these earlier works in mythology. As for how this book fits into the overall series, it's a turning point, essentially. The first two books were building up, and this book is when things start to get serious and things take a bit of a downward turn. Not totally, but things get a bit more intense in this book. Also, the relationships start to adjust and grow, which I really like. But the dynamic is a bit different because one of our main characters is absent for most of the book for reasons that are explained in the book that I'm not going to go into here. Would I recommend this book? Yes. I'm not totally sure where it fits in the ranking so far. I would say it's definitely above Sea of Monsters. I haven't picked an official spot in the overall ranking yet. I'll have to take a look. But right now, I would say it's, in terms of just these five, I would say it's probably actually dead center with Battle of the Labyrinth and Lightning Thief above it and Last Olympian and Sea of Monsters below it. But we will see how that changes when I actually go in and study the rankings and all that lovely stuff. So now I'm going to jump to a bit of a spoiler section. This probably won't be very long, but I'm going to go to a little bit of a spoiler section. And just to be aware, when I say spoiler, I mean massive spoiler. Like things that completely change the trajectory of the series kind of spoilers. So just to warn you. Now, the big spoiler that I was biting my tongue about was the fact that Nico D'Angelo and his sister Bianca are children of Hades. And this was especially difficult to keep quiet about because Nico is one of my favorite characters, and you find out in the final chapter! So I had to keep quiet for the entire book. And also, Nico is so different in this book than he is in any of the other books, for very good reasons, but it was really interesting to see. I knew that he was a lot more of a cheerful, peppy, happy little boy in this first book, although he really isn't that little. He's younger, but it's not like he's 6 or anything. He's just not 14, so you know. But it was interesting actually seeing it, because yeah, he was adorable. I can see how 15-year-old Percy occasionally got kind of tired of having Nico around just because Nico was talking nonstop about things Percy didn't like, but he was such a sweetheart, oh my goodness. And I can't wait to see how Megan and Naomi are going to react to what he's like in Battle of the Labyrinth, because I have read Battle of the Labyrinth, and we're reading the next one in January. Well, starting January. We'll see how long it takes. I also really liked Thalia, and just to clarify, I've heard it pronounced Thalia, Thalia, and Talia. I'm going to go with Thalia. Now, I've only had minimal exposure to the character of Thalia before this, because she's not in Lightning Thief or Sea of Monsters. I can't actually remember if she's in Battle of the Labyrinth, and I think her role in The Last Olympian is either non-existent or small, can't remember exactly. And she is in the second series, but not by very much, and same thing with Trials of Apollo. So really, I'd only seen a very small amount of her. And I really like her in this book. She's very, very passionate and a bit fiery, but she's also quite intelligent and calculating, and she can be a very, very good fighter. She's just a bit rash at times. But I also like that she does learn to recognize her weaknesses by the end, and I absolutely love that she has become Artemis's lieutenant. But I'm sad that Zoe Nightshade had to die, which brings me to my next point of discussion, which is, of course, Zoe Nightshade. So Zoe, I didn't like her when we first met her. I found her kind of annoying. I found her somewhat stuck up, but that was mostly because she was clashing with the characters I liked. And then the more time we spent with her, the more I started to like her, because I started to see where she was coming from. And I really liked her by the end. And I knew she was going to die. So the whole book, I'm just sitting there like, okay, she's going to be killed by her father Atlas, who we, at this point, don't know is her father. So that was another thing I had to bite my tongue about, because I didn't want to spoil it for Meg and Naomi. So, yeah. Now, the other major point in this book, and this is actually the second main reason why I haven't read the book yet. The other one was Nico's reaction to this. Bianca's death. I was really scared about how this was going to go because I know how much it affects Nico in future books. It was a lot less painful than I was anticipating, so that was kind of funny and a little bit anticlimactic, but in terms of how it fits into the book, it's really good. Also sad, because because I believe that's the first major death in the series, and yeah, Bianca might have been a new character, but it was still really sad. And then, of course, at the end of the book, Nico and... oh man, and just as you're reading this book, you can just see the light dying in Nico, and it's so sad. I was extremely excited when we read that final chapter because yes, finally I can actually discuss Nico with Megan and Naomi properly, and especially since we get just the slightest hint of his powers at the end of the book. We don't see all of them, not remotely, but we see one of them, and it kind of starts to make you think, and it's kind of a bit of a teaser for the next few books. So I am going to leave it here. Thank you for watching, you guys. If any of you have read Titan's Curse, I would love to hear your thoughts. Have any of you ever read a series where you actually skipped over a book and then eventually later went back to it? And if so, kind of what was your reasoning? So have a wonderful rest of your December and a Merry Christmas. See you later.